Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader. Sweden is no longer the safest country in the world. In this week's recap, the Redditors are back with AMC and Gamestop. We have some natural disasters as well to report. Let's get started. So overall for the week, there wasn't any, let's say, overarching news or concerns other than the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency bloodbath. We did have a situation where most of the stock indices in the U.S. came out positive. The Russell 2000, which mainly tracks small cap stocks, has had 8 consecutive positive months. It's almost at its record high again. Another signal of the everything bubble at this moment. We did have a situation where the Reddit memes are back. AMC was pushed and surged 200%. Now, there was a report actually from an analytics company, which I'll give you the name of in a second, that the losses of people who were short these companies like AMC and GameStop, which was also run this week, lost to somewhere along the lines of $174 million on Tuesday alone. Other than that, GameStop shot up 52%. Another round of obviously, let's break the big boys' backs this time. And also Virgin Galactic shot up 66%, not only because of the meme stocks, because of the Redditors, but also because of the fact that they had their third successful manned flight, which is actually big news for those of you that got the dough to go to space. Overseas market news. International markets have had their 7th positive day consecutively, 4th straight month of gains. In addition to that, the MSI World Index, which tracks 50 countries' stock markets, they reported that right now that index is 90% above where it was before the COVID. So nothing out of the ordinary. The market just went up 90%. Obviously, this has to do with the central governments of the world printing money, which I think obviously this is going to lead to a very, very bad situation, which I think they're doing it on purpose for, the government coin and the new world order, all that good conspiracy stuff. European markets are mostly higher as well. Istanbul and Russia were the most outliers there. Obviously, they're emerging markets, so their markets are going to move a little bit more than others. Latin American and Canadian markets were mostly higher as well. The Canadian markets was 1.72% positive for those of you that are in the new communist state of Canada, which doesn't even let you go outside and breathe due to the pandemic. Other than that as well, Asia and Australian markets mostly higher, all of them. Philippines had a very, very good week. They're the biggest outlier there at about 7.66%. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency news, there was $1.3 trillion that was wiped out in market value from this crypto crash. The previous week, not this last week, but the week before that, we had 50% Bitcoin go down from its high of 65,000. Overall, it fell 20% to 32,800. It did get to 30,000. Some are actually saying, some analysts said it's going to get to 24 to 27,000. Ethereum, the second largest crypto, went down by 50% after it climbed over 4,000. Goldman Sachs, which if you guys don't know, it's one of the most important, and if not the most important financial institution in the United States. They are talking about how Ethereum can actually overtake Bitcoin, because remember, Bitcoin is still by far the biggest crypto and Ethereum being number 2. Other than that, over the last 12 months, Ethereum did have a better return than Bitcoin. It went up 1,000% compared to Bitcoin's only 300%. And Dogecoin has not reached the dollar just yet. It's at about 30 cents or so. China's central government now is claiming that they're going to clamp down on the Bitcoin mining and trading last Friday. That's part of the reason why it went down. This is what I always told you guys, that was the risk of the cryptos and Bitcoin. Not that you can't make money with cryptos, right? Just like anything else, whether it's a stock or a future, whatever financial asset you guys can find. But this is kind of the risk where, you could have a piece of regulation or the threat of regulation, and then you have this big downturn. Hopefully some of you guys either closed out positions, or maybe you're still holding on to positions that you got in a lot earlier. Overall for the week, Bitcoin was down 3.55% to just under 35,700. It's still up over 23% for 2021. Now, China, due to the fact that they're clamping down on this, one thing that you may not know and why it's important is because China is over 50% of the world crypto supply. So a lot of miners now there are starting to halt their operations due to the situation with the Chinese government. Remember, India also is submitting legislation saying that they're going to completely ban any personal ownership of these cryptos if they're not, the rupee coin, the government coin, which is what I call it. And we'll see if this actually starts happening with the US and other markets as well. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that Bill Gates said, for example, was it's a greater fool theory where it really only goes up if there's somebody else that's willing to buy it. Well, if they start clamping down on it and you still own it and then nobody else is able to buy it, then who's going to buy it at that point? What's the value of Bitcoin if you can't receive it, right? And that's part of the reason why I told you guys that I believe the value. I love the idea behind Bitcoin, right? I wish Bitcoin, I think, would actually work and be, world money, because then we wouldn't have the powers that be controlling the money supply. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to use the technology that crypto uses, which is blockchain, to launch government coin. And then we're going to be even more surveilled around the world. Commodities, a lot of volatility in crude this week due to the fact that there's now talks and negotiations in regards to Iran, the nuclear program, obviously with Europe and the United States. They're talking about removing the sanctions. This is going to bring a huge flood of oil back on the market. Overall for the week, U.S. crude went up 4.30%, just over $66, and the international Brent went up 4.80% to just under $70. Precious metals had a good week. They're starting to move quite a bit. Gold is up 1.21% this week to 1,904, just shy of its all-time high that it hit in August of 2011 at 1,917. We have a situation now where a lot of hedge funds are starting to go net long gold. Remember what the big boys are doing, right? There's these videos that I wanted to do for you as well. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do for them. Maybe I'll do them today because I'm backed up with the videos in English. I do most of them in Spanish now. But, Warren Buffett sold the majority of his stocks. Bill Gates has sold a lot of his stocks. Michael Burry, which is the person one of the only people who bet big against the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, and made billions. He's one of the only people that actually saw it. Bullion-backed ETFs, which are index funds, let's call them, that are backed by the physical metal, are starting to get a lot of inflows as well, in addition to having 3 months of outflows. And also we have, what people are worried about with inflation and also the coronavirus. Silver also is up 1.48% to $28.04. And one of the big news in silver is that the U.S. Mint has forced delays in the silver shipments for bullion and coins due to the, quote, global silver shortage. In my opinion, I've been talking about this for a while. For those of you guys that have followed me for unfortunately, the YouTube channel that YouTube took down, the Day Trading Academy channel, but we have a situation where we don't have enough silver now, most likely because of the supply issue, because of the coronavirus. But as we continue to grow into things like electric vehicles and renewable energy, the demand for silver is going to continue to increase. That's one of the reasons why I prefer silver over gold, and why I think it's one of the best investments right now, due to the fact that it's going to go up. It has to go up due to the demand of what's going on compared to the supply, which obviously, if the government is already having a problem delivering the silver, imagine companies that are using it for industrial purposes. Financial and banking news, the USD continues to devaluate. Not only has it lost 97% of its value over the last 100 years or so, it's now at its lowest point in the last year. In addition to that, obviously this has to do with the massive spending. I've talked to you guys before about the debt situation. To me, this all started under Clinton, where Clinton removed what's called the Glass-Steagall Act. This was a law that was part of the Glass-Steagall Act. It was a law that was set in place to not allow brokers to bet your savings in the stock market, so it won't be risky, right? Your savings should be your savings, not money that the brokers get and go risk and then lose all your money. The bank fails and then you're out of money, right? So Clinton removed part of that. The banks got too big to fail. We got the 2008-2009 crisis. Bush comes in, prints a lot of money, the stimulus for everybody, right? Then Obama comes in 8 years, adds more debt to the federal debt than every other president combined in the history of the United States. Then Trump comes in 4 years, almost adds the same amount of debt as Obama, half of that being because of the COVID pandemic. And now we have Biden that in the first year, 1 year, he's going to almost add as much as Trump did in 4 years and Obama in 8 years. So we're definitely not heading in a good direction at all, and it's not going to end well. U.S. core personal consumption expenditures went up by 3.1% from April, 1.9% in March. Basically, the cost of you living your personal life, essentially. Key measure for the Fed, U.S. inflation, which uses this number to measure inflation. It's at its highest level since 1992. And all this kind of technical jargon to basically tell you prices of everything is going up and you're going to be a lot poorer this year because your money, you're going to have a lot less discretional income that you're going to have to spend more on things like food and rent and everything else. Other than that, the Biden administration on Friday sent Congress a huge $6 trillion budget plan. It's going to ramp up spending on infrastructure, education, combating climate change, in addition to retroactively going back and charging capital gains, very high capital gains. And he says that it makes a lot of sense now to borrow the money due to the borrowing cost being so low. The only problem, however, is that inflation now is higher than what they're paying on the interest rates. So any person that's going to come in and borrow money to the United States is literally going to lose money because the amount of interest that they're paying is less than what the dollar is being devalued by on a yearly basis now. You see, it's just everything is like Frankenstein economics right now. Political news, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission stated on Friday that the U.S. companies can mandate employees to have the vaccine against the COVID-19 as long as the employers comply with reasonable accommodation provisions of the Americans with Disabilities Act and other laws. So if you guys have a job, you're going to essentially have to get vaccinated. In economic news, Thursday, the U.S. Labor Department reported that the jobless claims surprisingly fell to 406,000 for the week ending May 22nd. It's about 20,000 or so less than expected. And this has to do with obviously the economy continuing to grow. In addition to that, we have a lot of states now that are removing the federal coronavirus stimulus because there's a record amount of jobs that people can go take, so they don't want people sitting around and getting government money instead of going out and working. France is now in a recession as well. In other economic news, confirming what most other economies in the European zone are already in, which is a recession. The economy in France is now 4.7% smaller than it was before the pandemic. And the United Nations Global Food Price Index, no longer the United States Price Index, but the global New World Order United Nations Global Food Price Index, rose to an 11-month high to a 7-year high with a year-over-year jump of 30%, meaning that the food that you're eating, that you're going to buy at the store, the cost of that food has literally gone up over 30%. Prices have not risen this fast since 2011. And you guys can see, hopefully, they put the picture of the inflation, that red line, where this is shaping up to be the worst year for the increase in prices, which is inflation, than the worst year that we had in the United States, which is 1971. Not good for any of us. Corporate news, Tesla, due to the semiconductor situation, looking to pay up front for the semiconductors to make sure they don't have any problems with their cars. There have been hundreds of millions of dollars lost because they can't find the semiconductors. They're even considering buying their own plant that makes the semiconductors. Xiaomi, which is one of the biggest Chinese smartphone manufacturers, has overtaken another big one, which is called Huawei. They've increased 75% year over year, and they crushed the numbers. 55% revenue growth. They actually doubled their profits as well. Amazon, since they weren't big enough already, decided to buy MGM Studios for $8.45 billion on Wednesday. Second biggest acquisition that they've had after Whole Foods, which was $13.7 billion in 2017. And this makes a big move into the entertainment businesses. MGM, for example, owns, franchises like James Bond and a lot of other ones. And in technology, Microsoft stated this week that a group behind the SolarWinds cyber attack identified last year is now targeting government agencies, think tanks, consultants, and a lot of non-government organizations. Probably would have been a good idea to go after these people instead of just paying them and letting them do what they want, because now it's like a fly, right? You kind of let a fly land on your arm and it's going to get comfortable and it's going to In Spanish, I'm thinking more más atrevido. It's gonna get a lot more confidence and then do more. But if you keep shooing him away, he's probably not gonna come back. And that's kind of what happens with people as well. In investment news, the number 2 U.S. automaker Ford, which announced the ever-exciting all-electric Ford F-150 Lightning on Wednesday, said it's going to increase in its investment plans to be able to have up to 40% of its global volume in electric vehicles. And the number that I told you for the analytics firm, it wasn't 124 million that they lost already on Tuesday for the Reddit stocks, which were the increases in AMC and Gamestop. It was actually 754 million on Tuesday alone. And the name of the financial analytics firm is called Ortex, just so you guys have that as well. International news, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University, is saying that COVID cases are down to the lowest level in a year. This being after places like Texas and Alabama and South Dakota and Tennessee dropped all mask mandates. About 49% of the population received their first shot for the vaccine, and about 39% of the population is already fully vaccinated, according to the CDC. And it's a 7-day average of new infection, which is only about 26,000 as of Sunday. Indian government, remember they had quite a bad situation with huge rise in the cases that they had for the coronavirus. They actually have fallen quite a bit. They were getting about 400,000 cases a day. They're down to about 222,000. And on Monday, if you guys didn't hear about this, Belarus said that a false bomb threat prompted a passenger plane to be diverted to Minsk, which is a city in Belarus, and they arrested a journalist on board. There was international condemnation. European authorities now won't let the Belarus national airline fly to Europe. They're also having a lot of the airlines from Europe avoid the Belarus airspace. And obviously, this is, a country like Belarus shouldn't do exactly what the United States and Europe did when they went after, what was his name? I completely forgot his name. I don't even have my cell phone to be able to look it up. The guy who reported that they were spying on us with the NSA, you remember? Who's in Russia right now on asylum, basically. So it's okay if the U.S. does it, right? But not if Belarus does it. That's, An unusual facts this week, a new investigation finds that Sweden has gone from one of the safest countries in Europe, to the second most dangerous due to the gun crime. Remember, they have pretty strict gun laws there in Sweden. They're blaming a lot of organized crime networks in addition to the low levels of the police, but they're not allowed to talk about the immigration policies due to the last 20 years. They've had a lot of immigration for a lot of these Muslims countries because that's essentially a thought crime. So they're not able to talk about the reason or other possible reasons of why they're having this increase in crime in Sweden, even though they've become one of the most dangerous countries now. And in the natural disasters this week, Three Gorges Dam in China may be in trouble. 97% of the rivers that are leading into the dam that holds back the water are already above the warning levels. We have a situation where last summer was the highest level since 1961, and it looks like this year's shaping to be even worse. There were even some speculation from some satellite images that the actual dam actually has been destabilized because it had a crack and it moved a little bit, supposedly, in the images. Hail freezing rain killed 21 in an ultra marathon as well in China. A lot of things has not been going well for them recently. There's a mice apocalypse in Australia that's so bad that the mice actually started eating other mice. They became cannibals. People in Sydney are afraid now that a lot of these mice are going to come in and attack a lot of the homes there in Sydney in the winter. And in addition to that, there's a situation where a lot of people have put, Tupperware bowls with water in them to set the base of the beds in so the actual mice can't climb up and bite them. But what they've been doing is actually climbing up curtains where the windows are, jumping on the bed and actually biting people. Imagine that. That's how hungry they are. A sandstorm in Algeria in Africa turned day into night when, due to this serious sandstorm that crossed part of the country, mysterious giant stones appeared off of the coast of Japan in the Pacific Ocean. They don't know who made them or if they're natural, but if they are man-made, they're asking questions, well, who could have made these? And a CME, which is a coronal mass ejection, think of it like a solar storm, caused widespread blackouts in North America and Southeast Asia. in only 24 hours. There was something called the Carrington event, which actually set the first electric system that we have in the world is the telegraph system, right? The Carrington event was one of these coronal mass ejections that hit the earth directly, and it literally was setting on fire the electric wires that were running along the street. Imagine that. And mass exodus in Congo, unfortunately, due to the situation with the volcano that went off last week. 500 homes have been set on fire, and now there's another serious warning from the government. So a lot of people are starting to leave the city of Goma, unfortunately, due to the strong volcano there. That's your news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.